Andrew, you're a construction worker and now a tutor. There's been a lot of talk by government recently about developer-led, essentially, housing policies. So what would you say to that and what's happening at the moment?
Well, developer-led or finance-led housing has got us into the problem we're in. The one thing that nobody's talking about, and since this government has come in, the government hasn't really got off to a good start. In fact, I don't even think it has got off to any sort of start. They're not interested. But what you need to do in order to resolve the housing crisis is to train workers, train them properly, transform the construction sector. So what's happening, what people don't realise, the construction sector, even though it's booming, it's contracting. They're not getting the same level of training or apprentices rather, and training of other construction workers into the sector. So any construction workers that are coming into the sector, as soon as they get some training, they're gone. They go elsewhere. And the reason why they're going elsewhere, ironically, is because they can't get a home, they can't get a house, and they're in the construction sector. So you have a situation where working class people, their training is being impacted because of lack of funding. Now, never in the history of construction and the training of apprentices was funding ever an issue. They said, no, the money's there, always there for the training of apprenticeships. Now all of a sudden, there's not only a crisis in housing, there's a crisis in the people who build the housing, who we train from a young age to come and build houses. There's no funding. So some of the solutions is, okay, we stop training apprentices. And most of the unions and other commentators, architects and so forth, have said, in the middle of a housing crisis, not going to happen. So what I think is happening is that the government have chosen a path of austerity since 2010 and haven't come off that path of austerity. So now they're afraid of mentioning the A word, so now they just don't mention it. So now we have austerity by stealth, where education sector, the part or the training centres that train the skills for the construction sector, it's been underfunded. Not because the money's not there, because we know in the various escrow accounts there's billions. The training grant or the training stipend that comes from the employers is like a levy. It's overflowing. So you're saying that for some reason there's a problem with funding. So you see across the education sector, tutors in post-primary, tutors even in third level, and also in air sector, which is quite specialised for training in industry, it's been undermined by lack of funding. The tutors are being blackguarded. So it's a crisis that nobody is really talking about it, but when it becomes a crisis, they'll all be talking about it, because AI will not build housing. Robots will not build housing. In fact, in the 70s they tried to develop a robot that built walls, but it couldn't go around corners. You know what I mean? So technology, you can do it all day. The man with the skills, the woman with the skills on site, whether they be carpenters or architects or engineers, they need to be trained. If we're not going to train them, the crisis we have now in housing, finance-led crisis, I will say, is only going to get deeper. And why? Because you're going to go looking for, say, well, let's get Chinese workers. And China says, sorry, no, we're busy over here. Or we're going to get Romanian workers. Well, actually, the Romanians are going to say, well, there's a bit of work over in Ukraine. The Russians are paying big money. So we're going to find they're going to have a massive shortfall of labour, skilled labour. Not just Irish labour, but in general. So we have to consider how do we get out of this crisis, right? So first, we're going to have the funding that should be going into training industrial workers should be released. There shouldn't be a problem with it. But we should transform the construction sector into a sector where workers want to go there and have a career. The alternative than going to third level education. And the communities that are most impacted by this, and this is something that will never be mentioned in the media, is working class communities where young lads, young women can have independent careers away from the bosses. You can be self-employed once you get your skill set together in construction, whether you're a plumber, electrician, carpenter and so forth. We all know the lads are out there, they're doing their thing, and they don't rely on anyone else but themselves. So you think a pathway for independence for working class families is basically they're putting a wrecking ball through it. That's the only word I can say. They're putting a wrecking ball through it. They've already put a wrecking ball through the way tutors are treated in post-primary, and now they're doing it in the industrial training centres, similar to Finglas and Ballymun that we have in Dublin.
And is there any plan from the union members like yourself to fight back?
Yeah, well, it's a fight back in a sense. What we've done, so our sector is basically organised through SIPTU, and we've put forward a motion that's going to go to conference. The motion states that we want the establishment of an industrial training authority, isolate ourselves from the likes of the ETBI and Solace and so forth. In a sense, we need an industrial training authority that will laser sharp train young men and women to go out there and build the houses that we need. And parallel to that, we need the establishment of an industrial training, a state-owned industrial construction company. So we'll have two state-controlled entities which are crucial for the construction of homes. You don't have to go too mad. The structure is already there. There's 16 training centres. You can expand on that or reduce it. Doesn't really matter. But the numbers have to go in, and young men and women have to say, "Oh, there's a career in construction. I'm going to be a civil servant, a construction civil servant." And believe you me, the middle class will balk at that. We imagine them on RTE. What? Construction workers being a civil servant? No. You have to understand. There's a career. You can be whatever you like, but there's a career to earn money and be independent and not be a burden to your family or to the state. But certainly they would be the two pillars that I would use to basically transform, or get rid of the housing crisis. But the construction industry needs to be transformed. Some manners needs to be put on it, that they're not the only source for employment as far as working class people are concerned. No, we'll have a state sector where your pension will be covered, your pay will be proper, and you'll be treated like a proper person, whether you're skilled or not. But at the moment, in the construction sector, the privately controlled construction sector, anyone who's not with a big company and kind of well in there is going to be blackguarded, and that's what we have to get rid of. That's the problem, the image of the construction sector. But that would be the two pillars I would have to resolve the housing crisis.